The Sony hack is very likely an inside job, not just by Sony Corporation, but also Sony Pictures and the CIA. You know, your favorite intelligence agency and agencies like the NSA. And it's pitching and serving up on a silver platter, by the way, a very specific narrative to the American people. I believe for a reason at this given moment and period of time. You know, is it possible that an executive, another studio head at Sony is simply just trying to get ahead? You know, step over his competition, advance his or her own career? Is it also possible that Sony just wants free advertising? You know, instead of having to allocate tens of millions of dollars to their marketing budget, sponsoring and advertising a worthless POS D-list film like The Interview starring comedian Seth Rogen, that instead they're just going to do it for free. You know, get CNN, the bullshit corporate mainstream status-owned media, and the president to speak to it instead. Kill two birds with one stone. I mean, what have we really learned about this supposedly controversial leak that we didn't already know about Sony, the studios, or Hollywood? That a couple execs at Sony, for example, think very lowly of the employees, their actors and actresses that work for them. That some of them think that Angelina Jolie, for example, is crazy. That others are racist. Or that, you know what, they just treat their employees like shit. Like any of this is new news. You know, for any of you that have actually visited Hollywood, hopefully for a very short period of time, already know that Los Angeles is a sewer pit, that it is a crack-ridden, laced whorehouse, a land of blowjobs where the lowest of the low are doing everything they can to suck their way to the top to hopefully advance their careers. And none of this is new news, nor is it a surprise. But the question is, why is the mainstream media and even the president highlighting this hack? Why is it such a big deal? If we haven't learned anything new, and no real information has been leaked that we didn't already know before. You know, isn't it interesting how the Obama administration is pointing a very convenient and specific finger at America's favorite stereotype, cliche, and hated nation? North Korea and the government, or as Obama would say, regime, anytime he doesn't like a country, of Kim Jong-un. You know, the figurehead, the puppet. I mean, everyone knows that the military really runs North Korea, not Kim Jong-un, who is the successor to his father, Kim Jong-il. They're pointing a finger at him. You know, it almost reminds me of the comedy, the cartoon film Team America. F yeah, where they poke fun at America's war on terror, Osama bin Laden, and actually showcase Kim Jong-il. In the film, it's almost like the Obama administration is doing the same thing. I mean, think about it for a minute. Does Kim Jong-un really even give a shit about this worthless propaganda piece that makes up the Hollywood film, The Interview? I mean, was he going through his to-do list the other week? Okay, like, let's see here. Starve the North Korean people so they can't revolt. Fight a real war against South Korea. And, oh yeah, hack Sony for fun. I mean, are Americans really buying off on this? Do they really think that Sony is a top priority of North Korea? Is there any real motive there? And the answer to that question is no. The only entities, bodies, corporations, or intelligence agencies that have a motive are here in the United States of America. We've already talked about how there potentially could be corporate business and profit motive at Sony itself. It could be a rogue executive that currently works there that helped this infiltration in the first place and this leak. But more importantly, it provides a smokescreen and a justification for the criminal actions taking place at the federal government, with the Obama administration today, and more specifically at the NSA, illegally and anti-constitutionally spying on all American citizens. You and your family, looking at your Christmas photos, reading your emails, monitoring your text messages, and then storing all that information criminally and illegally at these multi-billion-dollar data mining facilities in places like Utah. It provides a justification for that. It also plants the seed of fear in America's minds into corporate America, big business, and also small businesses, and most and more importantly, the average John and Jane on the street. At any moment, at any time, for any reason, out of nowhere, a rogue nation or terrorist group or Kim Jong-un might hack through his hacktivists in his campaign of terror your emails and leak it to the general public. Things that could be potentially very embarrassing, that not only could humiliate you, but could shred your business, tear it down, and potentially ruin you personally, maybe even ruin your life. Kind of like Donald Sterling at the NBA, who was also illegally wiretapped, who many would argue by the whore he happened to be banging at the time, who sold that illegal audio to TMZ for millions of dollars. We've seen example and countless example after one another take place. And now we conveniently have the SONY hack, the President of the United States even going as far as to threaten sanctions. I mean, how many sanctions is this president going to impose on countries around the world? He's already imposed sanctions against Russia, the angry Russian vodka drinking bear. He's imposed sanctions against Iran and their nuclear program. He is now deciding to impose sanctions against North Korea and strengthen those sanctions potentially over the hack of SONY, of all things, this Hollywood E-Entertainment Tonight story that he somehow strangely and mysteriously focused on, and at the same time, strangely lifting sanctions with communist Havana, Cuba. Isn't that interesting? It's not like anything's changed in Havana. I mean, over the last 40 or 50 years, they've still been communists, and they're still communists today. Yet the president's going to ease those sanctions, maybe because he wants to smoke some fatty cigars and, get a little tourism action going on before he, ends his presidency. You see, none of this makes sense unless you're staring SONY straight in the eye and you're also staring U.S. intelligence straight in their all-seeing eye. Which again, all of this provides justification for the gross surveillance state that makes up George Orwell's worst nightmare. Guilty until you're proven innocent in this country, kind of like Christopher Dorner. Douse them in gasoline and light the match, watch it all go ablaze. But you see, the only thing really on fire right now is you and me, your constitutional rights, your freedom in America itself. And it's exactly why this is being engineered and used as propaganda to again plant the seed of fear in Americans' minds. It kind of reminds me of another very specific propaganda piece put out not too long ago called SONY 2012. The U.S. government had a very specific agenda to destabilize Northern Africa through an entity that Americans don't even know and have never researched called AFRICOM. Smelled rotten then, was rotten, and proved to be a CIA front. And this, what we're seeing with SONY, again, has clear and present motive behind it. Not just for SONY itself, killing two birds with one stone, getting some free advertising, stepping over some other executives to advance maybe specific people's careers and specific studios, but also a justification for the surveillance state here in the good old USSA. In support of the NSA. Yeah, that's right. They're here to protect you, folks. Protect you and your family from yourself. Erode and destroy every freedom the millions of Americans shed blood and died for, just to be given away and eroded away at the snap of Obama's fingers, just over a simple hack and hacking of SONY Corporation. That's the real truth. This is psychological warfare, folks. It's a smoke and mirrors propaganda campaign. That's the reality if you're really paying attention. And those of you in the know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm Christopher Green. Get this video out everywhere. Make it viral, hard-hitting and in your face, and click the link below to support our sponsor.